Tucker's hands are up off the keyboard. Oh no, we're live. Fantastic. I don't know if my video is working or not. We're gonna have a good show. Hi, everybody. Nothing's different on my end than it is every other time we do this show. And currently, I see myself, I see Seth Keysor, I see Nate Taylor, I see decently competent Wi-Fi connections, and then I see just a moment of freezing on my end that makes me wonder, can you hear me? Can you see me? Does anyone care at all? Welcome to Only Weird Games.
I have no idea what today's about to bring. I wonder if any Super Bowl champion has ever benched their left tackle in 2 different games in the same season.
Everywhere. Lights come on. I need to see it, Omar.
Someone is getting snaps.
Show it.
Jazz and I have been married for 17 years.
So, Nate, what did you think about...
Famously does not start at its listed time, which is already 15 minutes later than its previous listed time used to be. And so often people show up in the comments nice and early and they ask, who's late today? Who's holding us back today? And usually I like to indicate what's happening with just like a cheeky little comment by myself to be like, well, I'm here. Last week I did a little AMA when I was the only one in the room for a little bit. That might have been Tuesday. Who's to say? Well, folks, today was my fault, or at least my computer's fault, and then me on top of that. Frankly, I'm just glad that it seems like... Seth, can you just blink twice for me? Uh-oh, Seth's either frozen or not listening, and we'll never know which one. Fellas, how we doing?
I'm doing wonderfully, and I'm breaking in to let you know that I'm not only here, but I'm here for you, Josh.
I just want to tell everyone that I just completed my 9th tour, which was my shortest tour to Indianapolis and back. I have made it. I have returned to my home. It's still a bit weird to leave Indianapolis so early, but I'll take it. And I know Ryan earlier before the show started, Josh said, I'm expecting sleep-deprived, running on pure caffeine Nate Taylor today, and that should be good content. Well, why don't we just do it from my house, okay? Because I can't tell you how many hours of sleep I got because I'm here, because someone had to pack and someone had to be out, and I have thoughts. I have a lot of, energy to give off before I immediately crash on my couch tonight. Before I put my 10-year-old to sleep, probably we'll see what happens. But I got plenty of caffeine and I got plenty of things to offer. And let's hope the sleep deprived doesn't mess it up for the next 50 or so minutes. Am I frozen?
No.
Okay.
I think Josh is either doing a bit or he's frozen, and I will also never know the difference. And Nate, I'm excited to see you. Yep, nope. There's no bits here. It's only Josh having bad Wi-Fi. Josh is appearing from 1996 when Wi-Fi was definitely a thing.
Did you update your Windows 98, sir?
And so I'm just so excited because, we've had like 1 or 2 shows in the past where Josh wasn't here. And that's, we're talking over the entire course of Time Bars and then only
that's
Weird
right.
Games. Josh has been the North Star that has shown us the way and has allowed us to safely,
you could say, the truth,
travail,
and the light,
the 7 seas, and arrive safely at our destination. And now, today, it's real cloudy. And how did sailors navigate the open ocean when it was cloudy?
Just keep going. You know what? In fact, turn it up a notch.
But how do you know which way you're going?
Roll faster. It could be an iceberg. It might not be an iceberg. Who's to say? Keep going. You know what?
What else could it possibly be?
What else could it possibly be? We don't need binoculars. We don't need lookout. Just keep going as fast as you can. I'm sorry, what? You want me to know what? Huh? Who? Huh? We could Oh, it's just be called drowning? No, not us. No way. No way that's happening to us. Where are my calves? Look, man, I already did some agility drills and I did some leaping drills in front of my own friends at the combine. My legs are sharp. They are steady. I still plan on playing tennis tomorrow. We'll see what Holly says about that. But no, man, my calves are great. I don't. Do the people really want this? While I tell them,
we agree.
While I tell them some combine bus, because I mean, look, it's who else is giving this to you, man? I'm caffeinated, dehydrated, and sleep deprived. Yes. Holly just texted me. You want to play tennis? Yes. I definitely want to play tennis tomorrow after going through a number of drinks. I mix drinks. Because you gotta mix and match with who you're working with, right? Okay, tequila and soda, let's go. Gin and tonic, yeah. Michelob Ultra, let's do it. Guinness, terrible timing, but sure, let's hug it out, let's fill it going. I think I had Sprite and Crown at Prime last night. Terrible decision. Loved every minute of it.
Great stuff, Seth. Hey, Nate, how's Indianapolis? Oh, you're at home already. Yeah, I hope you're not planning on doing anything fun tomorrow like playing tennis. You'd better ask Holly. I think my internet's a little bit laggy.
Yeah, just a little bit. So the one thing I was told by someone of importance was, hey, man, it's so good to see you. At the same time, man, it's got to be exciting. It's got to be fun. The Chiefs have a top 10 pick. Like, what are they going to do? No, man, Bane's not going to be there at 9. And then you go, okay, all right, cool, I get it. And then you're like, hey, let me talk to this person about Jeremiah Love. I mean,
but then Bane showed up for the measurements like this. Guys, measure my arms.
I'm going to name drop so many friends and family today that it's going to be hilarious. This Jeremiah Love person said, you think Jeremiah Love's getting a 9? And I said, all right, man, fine. Get out of my face. Now, it was yesterday where we did get the defensive linemen. They were the first ones to come out so that we can see them. I always like to give a preference, ladies and gentlemen, that I remember the days when we all crowded around Kyler Murray, and I said to myself, wow, this might work. Because, baseball player, he's built correctly for his framework. It makes sense. Got a rocket arm. Okay, I can see this happening. I want to compare that to a couple of years ago, and I said, there's no way. As much as I loved watching him in college, there's no way you're telling me this is the presumptive number 1 pick. He had twig legs, guys. His name's Bryce Young. Twig legs. Cannot draft him. He cannot be the first-round pick. Then they brought C.J. Stroud out, and I said, what are we doing? What are we doing? Just look at them. They're next to each other. I will always remember from this year's combine that my buddy Cody Goodwin, who covers Mizzou, surprised me. We hugged it out. Love him to death. I know he's a loyal watcher, listener, great journalist. And I just told him, how many ways do you think I could ask Ruben Bain a question within a question to where I extend my arm so that he extends his arm to me? Or
better start stretching.
Should I just cut through the crowd and just put my hand out there, just see what the handshake is like, just get a feel for it. And then as he approached said podium yesterday, and by the way, Ruben Bain, amazing player. Again, a number of people have told me they're not sure he's going to get to 9. Kind of makes sense. I didn't need the measurement today, guys. Nope. Didn't need the measurement at all. I was standing next to Cody, and I said, "Dog, I have the same arms as him. I have the same arms as him.
Do you have the same calves as him?
Maybe. I mean, we didn't have a calf off, but maybe we should if he finds his way to Kansas City. Calf it off. Guys, Now the best part about this, Seth, is, and I know you probably like Ruben Bain over David Bailey. David Bailey literally has alien arms. They were standing right next to one another.
Aw, that's mean. That reminds me of the episode of Friends where Brad Pitt was a guest appearance, and he gets introduced to Matthew Perry's character, who's Chandler, and he's married to Courtney Cox's character, whose name is Monica. And he gets introduced, and he says, "Oh, I'd come shake your hand, but I'm really into the game." And he said, "Also, I think it'd be best for me if we don't stand right next to each other," which is a great line because Brad Pitt's a very handsome man. And I've known dudes that I feel that way, where I'm just like, I don't want to stand next to you. There's this guy that used to go to the gym. Oh man, I'm reopening all these gym jokes. It was just shredded. And I actually said to him once, because he like stood up, he was like talking. He's like, "Oh, good to see you." Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, he got done talking. I was like, "Do you have to wear that tank top to the gym, bro? What are you doing to us?" And he fortunately had a good sense of humor because that was an aggressive thing to say, and he could have killed me. But the long and short of it, that was a mean thing to do to Ruben Bain Jr. because like everyone knew he was gonna have short arms. Like his arms were so short that like people are watching on a television broadcast from a camera that's like 100 yards away and like, that dude's got short arms. Like that's not good.
The measurement came back and people started texting me, "They're shorter than I originally thought."
And to be fair,
that's always tough to hear.
Everyone's arm length was coming out a little short. Couple things here. Wingspan matters.
Yes.
Because it's not just about your arms. Your shoulders matter too. Your chest matters. The whole thing. So his wingspan is not nearly as like, because his arm length is like 0.00001 percentile. His wingspan, my understanding, is still low, but not nearly as bad. Here's the other thing. And I saw someone mention this on Twitter, and I thought it was a really good point. There's there's something to be said for the way people win. And one of the primary ways that Bain wins is with a club or a hump move, both of which are not a long arm type move. They are actually, you have more torque with a shorter lever. So that matters. And yes, that is Daniel Jeremiah's tweet about, Nate.
30 7/8 is the official arm length measurement for Ruben Bain. For those taking notes off this podcast out there, which, man, what an unhinged thing to do that would be.
That would be, what a terrible way you're living your life, honestly. Yeah. I don't want to be overly critical, but honestly, you can do better.
Every once in a while, this show you could learn some things from, and most of the time, I think this show is an entertainment product, edutainment if it's a good day.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And right now, I feel like a substitute teacher trying with two toddlers at recess. Like, you guys both have very different forms of recess energy today. And look, Seth, I saw your eyebrows there. Nate has more of it than you do. Don't get me wrong. He's running laps around you at recess, but you're also just standing in the middle of a grassy patch, just spinning around with your arms out at this point. It's how it is.
Yeah, that I understand. And it seems like you've caught up now. And so I was deliberately.
It seems okay.
Yeah.
So here, hang on. I'm going to take this empty wrapper of protein bar and hand it off to you like a baton. Because I was like, I'm going to have to do some talking here. And I did not anticipate this. I didn't realize how reliant I've become on you over the years, Josh, because I was panicking. I was like, oh, no.
I'm going to take a show off sometime here in the spring and just really make you guys remember how valuable I am. It's always, oh, yeah, I don't know. These are all replaceable. These are all moving parts. And then suddenly you get below average hosting play. And it's like, you know what? Maybe we need to invest in a running back. I don't know if the analogy made sense. I just want to talk about that with you guys. But first, some chats here. Nate mentioned from SC Warrior, where are Nate's calves? A super chat we got there. Appreciate that. Also from the Campbell Cooks, it doesn't get any better than these amazing three amigos. Appreciate that, but also appreciate this from Steven. Not sure I agree. Certainly don't want this to be true from Steven. If Seth, Josh, and Nate were the three amigos, Seth is Martin Short, Nate is Steve Martin, and Josh is Chevy Chase. And I'd rather not be.
What's the name of the character? Something Glick? Right? I'm not Martin Short. Sure. I'm the fat suit he throws on and he interviews people in. There's a great one. You got to look up. It's like Stephen Glick interviews Bill Hader. And it's so funny because Bill Hader can't keep it together the whole time, which is not unusual for Bill Hader. I'm really explaining a lot of pop culture things today. Anyway,
You're
it's a very specific character Martin Short has and a very specific type of humor that I 1,000,000% am. And I'm sorry that leaves you with Chevy Chase. Nate.
So Nate's show. I'm going to go ahead and use this segue as well here. Nate is showing his full nude calves on stream, so hopefully the viewership numbers are about to skyrocket. And I wanted to go ahead and take it from Luke here in the chat, who said, "Praying Nate has some juicy scoops from this week." So go ahead, Nate, give us your juicy scoops. Nate's muted.
I wrote this down. Well,
Nate was muted. I thought it was me. Then now Seth's showing off his calves. I got calves here too. I got.
So, I didn't want you to hear the sounds as I was flexing my calf. But we didn't need that.
Disagree.
So, I wrote today on ESPN.com that the Chiefs have a number of options. They will try to rectify the running back position in free agency. There's definitely some validity to the Travis Etienne angle of all this. I get the sense that like Tyler Allgeier's in the mix, but we'll see where it goes. You would love to not enter the draft with the number 9 pick, praying that Jeremiah Love falls, or that you have to take Jeremiah Love because you've been put in such a precarious position from a roster building standpoint. And so the thing that I find to be most interesting is, as Seth talked about it Tuesday, if you want to really be a player in free agency, you gotta have legitimate cap space, which means the Chiefs have to make significant cap saving moves over the next 2 weeks. I will not be surprised if they choose to do that, if they choose to just create as much cap space as they can. I know Chris Jones still has the largest cap hit. I believe they're trying to rectify that as well. And so with everything that's going on, you've got to be willing to give something to get something in return. And that's the pendulum that they're weighing right now. Of course, as we all talked about, I know there wasn't much of a significant update with Travis Kelce, but there's no one I've talked to around the NFL who just believes Travis Kelce's done playing football. And so now it's about how does that contract work within the framework of how much cap space you have, and whether or not that deal is going to be something that's structured in a way to keep his cap hit low enough to be manageable, with the appearance that, hey, maybe he might not be around in 2027, but you can eat some of that understandably, given that the salary cap is going to go continue to rise. I know I want to, guys, my brain's moving so fast. I'm slowing it down as best as I can.
I want to chop it right here. I want to chop right now because I don't think we actually got to it on Tuesday. Seth is not interested in touching that Chris Jones contract. And since you mentioned that, Seth, I just want to know why that's not a move that you would like the Chiefs to make. As Nate says, that might be the next one of the next few things up, is they need to make some cap space.
Here's the thing. I hate it when they complete a contract and then they do restructuring like the very next year or really soon thereafter. The reason that frustrates me is because you frequently put yourself in a bad spot down the road. It's something they did with Jawan Taylor's deal that I just don't think is restructure Creed Humphreys. He's young. He's a foundational guy. He's going to be around. He's an elite player. So you're not really taking as much of a risk there, because what restructure does is it pushes it forward. And here's something to keep in mind. A $5 million cap hit today, we'll just use an easy we'll use an easy number. $5 million cap hit today is not the same as a $5 million cap hit in 2028, because every year, the cap's going to go up like 25, 30 mil this year. It's going to do the same thing, or at least something similar, for at least the next several years while the streaming wars are continuing, because the NFL is dominating everyone, everywhere, all the time in ratings. Now, is that sustainable forever? Probably not. But for the foreseeable future, you're going to be fine. So that's why restructuring is almost always not a terrible idea, because, yes, it pushes stuff into future years where it's a smaller percentage. Because with cap spending, what matters is percentage, not amount. So here's the problem I have with this, though. with Jones, I mean, they just signed him to this contract, and right now they have not that many guys under contract in 2027. They got 23 guys under contract in 2027. And if you go 1 year forward to 2028, they have 13 guys under contract. Okay. They have an opportunity to really reset the roster over the next 2 years. And that's something that they have the flexibility to do right now. And here's one reason for it. This year, Chris Jones' cap hit is really high. I get all that. But it's got a really, and you can't do anything about it, okay? Next year, his cap number is $6 million lower than it is this year. And so it not only will be a lower number, it'll be a substantially lower percentage next year. And also, of his $38 million cap hit next year, about half of that is dead money, which means you could save next year. And I'm not saying they should do this. Okay.
Right.
They could next year, in theory, move on from Chris Jones. Again, not saying to do it. Okay. I'm making a broader point here and save $18 million in cap if they don't restructure. If they don't restructure by the time you get to 2028, you can save $35 million in cap savings. And here's what that does. That gives you flexibility at the negotiation table if something becomes necessary. And I don't think Chris Jones is about to fall off a cliff play-wise. But if he does, you can survive that next year because of where the contract currently is. If you restructure and suddenly there's another $10 million of dead money in both of those years, it hurts you so much more. And it's a very, oh, Lord. No, I'm not going to lean into it. I want the Chiefs to keep Chris Jones around for as long as possible because he's awesome and one of my favorite players of all time. Do not do the Charles Omenihu thing to me, guys.
I wasn't.
Really
I actually like the
Jones.
I like the comment ahead of it from Ronson Trey. It just said, I like how Seth leans in to speak more clearly, but the mic is always the same distance. It's just a very good observation. And Seth, it's good mic technique from you. I just wanted to highlight this as both, a good play by you and a good play from Ron in the comment. It's it's just game recognizing game.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Jiminy Glick. Thank you, everyone.
And lots of people have said Jiminy Glick. Yes.
Oh, okay. I just saw this one. Sorry.
And I don't know if he's going to be there at 9, but I think the way the board falls.
So that's the problem that exists with restructuring Jones. I get it. He's the largest cap hit, but that doesn't mean you need to restructure him. You can save a buttload of money restructuring Creed Humphrey, and it doesn't do the same things. And that's where you can maintain your flexibility in future years. And I see a comment, I appreciate it. Seth, we are a contender. What matters for a contender now is not in 3 years. I agree with what you're saying, but the NFL is a business. We know how it works. Yes, the NFL is a business. And as long as you have Patrick Mahomes, you're a contender. And some of the restructuring stuff they did with Jawan Taylor is one of the reasons they're in a bit of a pickle last year when they couldn't move on from him had they maybe wanted to. And they could have gotten Jalen Moore for cheaper, moved on from Taylor's contract, and that would have saved the money last year and this year, but they couldn't do that because of the restructuring stuff they've done. You don't restructure every contract just because you can. They have other guys they can do, buy a ton of cap space, and still be very competitive on the market. That's what I would do because there's just at Jones's age, I think restructures should generally stick with guys that are young that you're going to have around for the next 2 or 3 years at least. Doing it with a guy at Jones's age, for as much of a freak as he is, and as great as he was last year still, it's just a bigger risk. And it's not one that I personally would want to take because right now they've got flexibility to continue to transition the roster, and their failure to make the tough decisions to transition the roster over the last several years is part of why they went 6-11 last year.
Let's take a timeout right here. Let's take our first break, and then we'll come back for more of Nate's juicy scoops.
Success in real estate takes more than vision. It takes the right financial partner. When someone takes something rundown and turns it into something great, that's called a comeback story, like Brain Group. They take distressed properties here in KC, completely rework them, and then turn them into valuable real estate. But that kind of work needs the right bank behind it. Enter Emprise Bank. They're not about cookie-cutter loans. They saw Brain Group's vision backed them, and now they're making big moves in Kansas City real estate. Talk about your partner in possible. Emprise doesn't do one-size-fits-all financing. They invest in potential and back growth. Visit emprisebank.com/KC to learn more. Emprise Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
All right, Nate, let's pick it back up. What with the next nugget out of the hat here? There are a couple of like positions I kind of want to point towards, but what else have you heard so far? What else caught your ear in Indy?
Yeah, well, it's we should just get right to the topic that's lower on the rundown, but it might be time for everyone to acknowledge that we may have seen Brian Cook play his last game as a Kansas City Chief. I think several teams are interested. I think several teams view him as a very functional and competent, above average, safety in a low safety market. And because you have to give something to get something, and I know that's what I said earlier as it relates to Seth's argument. I mean, Brian Cook has done everything that has been asked of him. I know he's played through multiple injuries. This is his chance to obviously continue his career at a pretty nice contract. And so I think there are evaluators who will view Brian Cook more than like maybe the common fan realizes. And so it's just preparing yourself for the idea of like, okay, Jalen Watson really doesn't make a ton of sense because you still have the Trent McDuffie dilemma, which they're trying to work through. And I've said this, I said this on Tuesday's podcast and no one changed tune on this either, but just like, if this is the guy that you've taken at the highest point ever in your tenure as a general manager, and he's a good player, you can't let that guy get out of the door without like exhausting every possibility you have for a contract extension, especially as he enters his prime. We know Jalen Watson's a 7th round pick. Cook is probably the most, I can't say this definitively, but he's likely or could be the most coveted free agent that the Chiefs have amongst their guys who are actually available, who are actually going to get to free agency, right? So I just think people need to understand that, like, the Chiefs play a very complex defense. He got better over time. He had a very good season last year, which was kind of underrated. There's not a ton of like just available like plug and play safeties. And so I think Brian Cook's going to do very well for himself. And I'm not sure the Chiefs can necessarily be competitive when they have to prioritize other positions, other ways to improve the roster. When it comes to Leo Chanel, that is a more trickier situation. So there's obviously a chance that the Chiefs could re-sign Leo Chanel. You would love to do it, obviously, before free agency starts. They also could say, hey, see what you get, call us, let's see how close we could get. If you really want to stay here, we can, we'll give you the chance to see your value on the market. We'll have a chance, hopefully, to match or to, take it up just a little bit for you to stay in Kansas City. But I'm not sure that's possible for Brian Cook.
Seth, I want to ask kind of what the value. I'm going to read a cheeky comment that just came through as well. But I am curious because I feel like we talked about this both last offseason and during the season. It's always been weird to talk about Brian Cook because he typically hasn't been even the number one safety. And then coming into this last season, he wasn't the number one safety story. That was kind of Jaden Hicks, and just in terms of like, what's it going to be, right? Obviously, Cook ended up being one of the leaders of the defense that way. But I think, maybe I'm just projecting here, but I think a lot of Chiefs fans never really put him certainly into the Justin Reed and Tyrann Mathieu category of like the cerebral safety at the back end of Spags' defense. I'm not saying he's not deserving of that. I just don't think that connection really got made that way because he did get better during his time here. and also to your kind of point on the market there, Nate, just the spot track market value estimations that I think come from PFF. Kobe Bryant and Brian Cook are both around $14 million market value just on here. And that, I don't know, that gets you half of a Trent McDuffie or all of a 1 year Travis Kelce contract and some change. Maybe that gets you Etienne and some change. So you can kind of slice the pie however you want. The cheeky comment that I do enjoy from Pazlou says, without Cook, the Chiefs are in danger of being a team that gives up a lot of third and longs, which is pretty funny considering obviously that was a big problem last year. I don't think any of us begin by pointing that finger at Brian Cook. But Seth, what do you make if this is a defense that doesn't include Brian Cook next year? How big of a need would safety become? What would they be with How do you feel with the idea that it might just be a little bit pricey for Brian Cook right now?
It becomes a very tricky situation for them in terms of skill set because he is the only guy on the roster right now. Well, he's their best deep safety right now by a fair margin. He's their only safety that really has the ability to play single high well. And he's also the most disciplined in their safety group by a pretty wide margin.
Yeah.
And so it's really that maybe Chamari Connor could, maybe he could play slot and safety and deep safety and he could play linebacker. And that's the thing. Chamari Connor, they've turned him into a meme. And Connor's a perfectly competent safety, I think. Here's the thing. I think Jaden Hicks has shown the skill set to be a perfectly competent two-high safety. I think Chamari Connor has shown he's a perfectly competent, maybe even above that, two-high safety or box safety for both of them. The question I have becomes when they want to play cover 3, who's playing in the middle of the field? Now, they play a ton of split safety in Kansas City. They don't do a ton of single high stuff. They might show it a lot, but they usually rotate out of it. Yeah. So that's, they can do without it, but it would be tough because he's got the most range of any of their safeties. Like, it would just be tough skill set wise. And based on what happened with Hicks last year, it's hard for me to picture their top 2 safeties being Hicks and Connor. Now, it could be they really like Chris Roland Wallace, but he also doesn't have the same long speed that Cook has. And so I just don't know who your guy is when you want to play middle field close stuff, whether it's single high or whether it's cover 3. My understanding is there's one really awesome safety in the draft who is basically like,
he might not make it to 9 either.
Right. Well, and that's what everyone says about every pick at this point, about every player, right? And then what I always say to people is, well, we've named 15 people, and you said none of them will make it to 9. Mathematically, it's kind of like how 80% of the populace or whatever thinks they have above average intelligence. It's like, well, let's work through this.
I do want us to do this exercise at some point. I am a tiny bit nervous that the list of players is Mendoza and 7 guys. I'm a little bit afraid that there is a very specific way that it could actually fall that just leaves you there at 9 and you go, it's probably not gonna happen. The worst case scenario almost never happens that way, but it's possible. I don't know, man.
Are you
scary?
I mean, we've talked about Brian Cook a lot. I went through the film stuff. I mean, let's walk through that scenario if we have time. Do we not have time?
Yeah, sure. Do whatever we want. It's February.
So we've got Mendoza. Everyone knows he's going 1. Okay.
Yep.
So here's the thing: for the Chiefs to have a nightmare scenario, the top 3 receivers need to be gone.
In fact, I'll cut a corner for us real quick because Brandon Kiley tweeted out one of these a little bit earlier, and Maddie Lane quote tweeted it. Now, I will say that Tyson does not go in this top 8. The list for Kiley is Mendoza, David Bailey, Malga, the tight end the tackle whose name I keep mispronouncing, Arvell Reese, Carnell Tate, Mekhi Lemon, Reuben Bain, Jeremiah Love. So your top 2 edges are gone. Your top 2 receivers are gone. I feel like Tate and Lemon make the most sense for the Chiefs, which might be why if somebody else falls in love with Jordan Tyson, that saves you the heartbreak. Right. And for a while, I was excited by the possibility. It just seems like, not necessarily what you'd look for here. That would then leave you in a place to take Caleb Downs and say, all right, we got a safety, but that's positional value, and we talked about that some on Tuesday. How Veach discussed that. Yeah, and that leaves Woods. It leaves another half dozen kind of guys in that range, but it feels like there might be 3 or 4 Chief fit top tier targets, and I don't know if those guys are going to be there at number 9.
Yeah, I think if it goes down that way, I think what Matty Lane said is he'd probably go with Falk, who is a very Spagsy looking edge, who based on the drills I didn't watch any of his tape, I will before the draft, has the requisite lack of bend that we've also come to know and love. He chose the cliff. That was the first thing he said. And then he said probably Falk, who he says he's got graded out a little higher than Karlaftis was coming out. Got more traits.
But that's a little underwhelming for your only top 10 pick since trading up for Patrick Mahomes. I mean,
that's absolutely correct. And so I do think in that scenario, you see how much you trust the medicals with Tyson, who has unbelievable traits, or you take downs who, like, you immediately have created a scenario where your safety room suddenly becomes excellent again. You can play way more single high if you want. You could really have a really strong secondary based on that. And when the Chiefs have been their best was when they had a really strong secondary. So I mean, there's a few defensive tackles that, I mean, as I've looked at, I think are at least somewhat of an option. Because I think as I go through that list, let me just double check it. Yeah, this doesn't have any of the defensive tackles, right?
Correct.
And so I think there's a couple of those guys that I would go with. And so to me, there's always an option there, but it's definitely dark, especially if it goes exactly that route. I really think that Bain is going to be taken off at least a few teams' lists entirely based on that arm length. And I'm just hopeful it's not the Chiefs.
It seemed like pre-measurements and pre-combine, this is purely vibes, I just kind of expected that one of Bain or Bailey is going to get the pre-draft riser status, where some teams is going to be like, yeah, we're just going to take the best defensive end available, and maybe even before Reese goes and figuring out however you're going to make him work in your defense. But it seems like Bailey might be the guy that it's easier to talk yourself into the traits of, and then Bain, you watch the tape and you go, that guy's a monster, and then you look at the measuring tape and you go, that's kind of weird. In fact, not just kind of weird, it would be a historical outlier for him to have a successful career. I believe it'd be a historical outlier for him to go top 10. So I don't know, is there anything else on Ruben Bain here, Nate, as we're kind of just like on the defensive side of the ball that we haven't already covered? Because I do think, as Seth says, like, somebody's going to say we don't need to invest this pick in Ruben Bain. That's too much of a historical outlier. And also, again, if you just watch him play football, you want him on your team.
Yeah. And so the Chiefs are always in the vein of like, the tape has to mean something. You want to see those football traits through testing, but it's not like an absolutely, requirement. I think if you're a Chiefs fan who's a little bit concerned about the arm length, from what I can gather, Ruben Bain is one of the most skillful guys about setting up moves, having multiple moves, having a design of what he wants to do from a certain position as to where he lines up, whether that's 5 tech all the way out to like wide 9. They really didn't do a ton of wide 9, but like he has really thoughtful plans that I think a lot of coaches appreciate on film. And what we've also realized too is like Ruben Bain is a really well thought out prospect. Like nothing has really surprised him. I've heard, you always hear like, okay, did you talk to so-and-so? What was the interview like? What did you learn? And, a lot of that is, it's a little bit of candy. It's, it's just like, hey, this will soothe you for like, 2 minutes for little old Noah here. But there were concrete examples that I heard.
Who, just to be clear, Noah, I know what the chat's saying. Noah does have shorter arms than Ruben Bain. We got to draw the line somewhere.
Yeah, we got to.
This baby's wingspan is nothing. You can play keep away from that baby forever. Noah's not ready to bat down a pass. Maybe someday, not right now.
Right. So I think he has a real thoughtful game plan, and he walks through him setting up certain moves, him having the ability to adjust based on what the offensive lineman, the tackle is usually trying to do to counteract that. And I think his motor and his tenacity is to be marveled at, honestly, because the dude never freaking stops.
And something that I do want to add in when we're talking about Bain, one of my favorite video clips that I've seen recently on Twitter. Mitch Schwartz, when Will Campbell had a really tough Super Bowl, which he did. I mean, like, there's no getting around it. And basically everyone for a little while started saying, oh, it's the short arms finally caught up to him. And, oh, it's those vertical sets. He's no good at them. And then Mitch Schwartz made like an 8-minute video that was like, no, that's not what's happening. And that was quote tweeted by basically every offensive lineman analyst that I trust, like every one of them and other offensive linemen. They were like, yep. And what he said was, like Joe Thomas commented below it, which I'm going to go ahead and trust Joe Thomas's opinion. If Joe Thomas and Mitch Schwartz agree on something.
So stupid that they played on a football team that just could not buy a football game.
Right.
Or had a quarterback capable of, completing passes on an accurate.
It's so
they were protecting an idea.
Yeah.
So what he said, and there's a reason this, I'm not talking just tackles. What he said about Campbell is that a lot of people get hung up on length, and length does matter. It can make things easier for you in terms of landing hands first. But his big point was the entire point of why people are worried about that is the timing of your hands and the placement of your hands. And the placement of your hands is affected by the timing of them. If you use your hands well, if you're good with placement and you've got early fast hands as well as heavy hands, it just doesn't matter as much. And everything I just said describes Reuben Bain Jr.
Yeah.
He's got great hand placement. He's got fast hands and incredibly heavy hands. And that matters. The torque he's able to generate from his hips for those clubs and for that hump move, that matters a lot. Now, he'd be an unbelievable outlier. Like, that's tough. But there's been unbelievable outliers before, and you have to ask yourself, if he can't be that outlier, why was he already that outlier at the college level? Because it's not like as the competition got harder, he vanished. Like when they started stacking up against better and better off, it's not like Indiana's offensive line is bad and doesn't have good tackles with good film and length on him. And he was very obviously the best player on the field. Is that a sure thing? Absolutely not, because those traits can start to matter more and more and more. But why? I think people get so caught up in talking about why certain traits matter that they ignore, or that they are so caught up that the traits matter, they forget why they matter. And the why they matter, it's similar with the Patrick Mahomes footwork conversation prior to the draft. Everyone was like, his feet are a mess, and they were, good Lord. And yeah, his footwork has cost him a few times in the pros, but nothing like what they thought. But what I wrote about, and I'm always going to go back to this because it's one of the most right things I've ever been about, Jazz, Jesus, and Patrick Mahomes, right? Those are my big three. Everything else, I can be wrong about everything else. But
trying to figure out what the order represents there. Don't worry about it.
I said what I said.
Yeah, I heard it.
Ooh, blasphemous. Oh no. Anyway,
I just think Jazz is going to be upset about being number 3 on that list.
Yeah, I put Jesus in the middle so there couldn't be confusion.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's like, wait. So here's the big.
You don't have to scout Jesus. I mean, other people were telling you about Jesus.
Everyone knows what you're getting there. So
I heard Jesus is a lot. He's a big communicator, big talker.
I heard he disappeared for 3 days. Like, I don't want that kind of guy on my team.
So here's the thing. It's an analogy.
One of his teammates hated him.
Yeah. Also, I feel like he was a very unconventional teacher, right? Someone who's unconventional,
divisive,
leader, right?
A divisive locker room presence.
I mean,
if we're being honest,
he walked into Jerusalem like he owned the place.
The guy thinks he walks on water. What are we doing? I don't know. Let's just say it. Big head. Let's just say it.
Hey, all we needed was a little short completion and just move the chains on third down. He chose to walk on water. I mean, this guy's a showboat. Literally.
Showboat. Absolutely a showboat.
So, anyway, that's all really funny. Here's the thing to think about. And this is, and people always point out, liar, Mike Tyson didn't need long arms because of the way that he played or, boxed. So here's the thing to think about. With Patrick Mahomes, when he was coming out, there were certain people that were like, nope, look at that footwork. That footwork's garbage. It's absolutely garbage. Okay, I'm sorry. I need to read this comment from Kangaroo. Jesus had one problem when he walks in water and was like, look, that guy can't swim. That's funny. Like that's like a Twitter level thing. Like, oh, you heard that guy can't swim, right? It's like because he was walking on water. Like, Oh. Anyway, that was a great comment. So there were certain people, including really smart people in the industry, that were like, oh, Patrick Mahomes doesn't belong in the top 10 of quarterbacks. That footwork is garbage. But what people always forgot to ask is, why does footwork matter? It matters because it affects accuracy. So you shouldn't be asking yourself, what's his footwork look like? Yeah, that matters. But you should be asking yourself, first and foremost, is he consistently accurate? Right? Height matters so much for a receiver. And so that's why you can't count on a guy who's only 6 feet tall to consistently win jump balls. No. Does he consistently win jump balls in the college level? Like, does he do those things? And that's where with Bane, it's the same thing. Why does it matter? Because it's hard to get to win hand fighting. It's hard to get inside the body of an offensive lineman. It's hard to win with power-based moves. It's hard to win from a wide 9 stance. But Bane did all those things very consistently, including against top-tier competition. There's the word.
Prospects.
Please don't let the way I didn't land the plane. And by not land the plane, I crashed that thing into the ocean at like 5,000 miles an hour.
In fairness, Noah interrupted.
That's
no
true.
accountability
Noah,
on this podcast.
Tighten it up, Noah. So that's just something to keep in mind with Bane. Does that mean he'll succeed? Absolutely not. But if you're telling me, oh, his arms aren't long enough, it's like, to do what? Because, he's not going to be able to hold the edge. I don't know, dude. I watched him hold the edge a lot. Now, maybe it's different in the pros, but that's the risk.
All right, last topic here. We've mentioned a little bit on the running back front. I know everybody's got a tight schedule here. I clicked it too. Sorry, Tucker. I think I clicked it first, but my internet took an hour and a half to actually flip the page, and here we are. Anything else to add on the current state of that running back room, Nate? You mentioned it early on. I just want to make sure we do put the button on it in terms of the rumblings around the combine, and of course, we've already discussed the drawbacks. We're just going to bet the house on Love being there at number 9 overall. Any specificity? It seems like Etienne's name's been thrown around the most, rating on the Jets to make the final call on Breece Hall still, I suppose, right?
Yeah, so Breece
Hall...
Noah
does not want Travis Etienne.
Breece Hall was the dream that died before we even left Indianapolis. It's so bad. We know what the Jets are doing. They are choosing to do what the Chiefs did last year with Trey Smith. So I want to remind people, like, hey, the franchise tag is diabolical. That's likely what they'll use, to my understanding, because I don't think the transition tag makes much sense. But they'll franchise tag him. They'll restrict him from free agency. I'm not sure they'll get to a long-term contract, obviously, like the Chiefs did with Trey Smith. But that would have been probably the Chiefs' top option. So next is Travis Etienne. Following that is the ability to have just an awesome young dynamic player in Jeremiah Love. And so there are a lot of scouts who say Jeremiah Love makes a lot of sense for the Chiefs offense, especially if, as we heard Brett Veach say, as Andy Reid has maybe, tinkered, or, he's dipped his toe in that water a little bit. The idea of changing the run scheme, having that Ben Johnson, Eric Bieniemy effect to where they can run the ball with a little bit more, let's just say, variety than what they showed, which was so, RPO base heavy. And, the lack of big game plays to where if Jeremiah Love is as good as people think he is, from a Saquon Barkley to maybe Bijan Robinson, I have a hard time believing that in comparison to those two guys. But that would be why you would take him that high in the draft, is that he would give you a similar effect.
We needed some explosion in this podcast, and Noah has obliged. Nate, I think you can take your leave, sir. Thank you for surviving Indianapolis to make it back to show us all your calves. Seth, on that front, then I think we've probably been pretty well aligned on the running back front as the Chiefs are figuring out what step to make there. What do you make of Nate's juicy nugget there? And what do you think about the Etienne plan, or do you think there's a conversation to be had elsewhere?
I think Etienne is a really good option in terms of making the run game consistently more explosive and a bigger threat. One thing to remember is that even if Etienne is not, let's say he's 5% less efficient than Kareem Hunt, but he breaks big runs like 6,000% more often. You know what I mean? Like, it's not.
Yes.
The limit does not exist. That
Yes.
changes because remember, with the run game, you're not just looking at the impact it has. It's kind of similar to throwing it deep. It's why it drove me nuts when they kind of rotated Tyquan Thornton out of the offense. It's not just about the 40 yards you get once or twice a game. If you have a running back who can break off explosive runs while being a relatively competent all-around back, that affects not just that drive. And it is, I mean, big plays win games. Big plays and turnovers. Those are like your two big things, usually, unless you're the Chiefs and you've somehow managed to win a bunch of games not having any big plays, and then, the bottom fell out in 2026 or 2025. It affects the rest of the game. It affects every other snap in that you got to respect it in a different way. It's not just about whether or not they'll play two safeties. It's not about how far back the shell will play. It's about how the linebackers move with that first step when you fake a handoff. Buying Patrick Mahomes a split second. Go watch the way defenses used to react to RPOs in Kansas City and the way they react now. You just go look at the 2019 Super Bowl tape and then turn on what defenses were doing last year. So I think it's a good idea because, like we said, on Tuesday, there's a little bit of a market inefficiency there where you can sign Travis Etienne for, an amount per year that you couldn't sign any kind of like better than a wide receiver 3 type guy. And that matters, especially with the gaps they have. So, I mean, you bring in Etienne, you bring back Hunt for short yardage and some third down stuff as a blocker you trust. And then you can go and you're still developing Brashard Smith, who I think popped a lot last year and has said he really wants to learn, build his body like a running back, all that. I don't think people should forget about him. Then you go into the draft without that desperate need, and you can look at a blue chip player at a blue chip position.
The couple things, I know we're in repeats here, but we're gonna keep repeating it for the next month as well. First of all, if you're a Jeremiah Love lover in the comment section, I know we have many of those.
Yeah.
What happens if he goes 4 or he goes 8? And if you're planning on Love being your starting running back, now all of a sudden it's Brashard Smith or it's Kareem Hunt or it's some other. Now you're probably overdrafting a third tier running back somewhere with a later pick. Your free agency options have come and gone. Maybe you hedged your bets a little bit. But you're not even hedging your bets. Hedging your bets doesn't mean Tyler Algier to me. Hedging your bets means somebody whose name we haven't said on the show yet this offseason. So that's your first real scare. The other thing, again, we've talked about it, but if you have an opportunity, like you just said, to get a value position and a blue chip player at a value position, the double-edged sword of that, which might be both positive to me in this case, I guess. Your money goes further in free agency on a running back than it does at almost any other position at this point, and it goes less far in draft capital than it should at pretty much any other position. You sign one of these free agent running backs, I'm willing to make that be a legitimate contract for a legitimate difference maker, and then you start hoping that you're able to get one of those pieces at a position you desperately need there at 9. I just think that makes so much sense. If something absolutely crazy happens, then I guess the doors stay open. But you can't go into the draft hoping to get your starter at number 9 overall. That's a scary way to live. And again, like, they could do that at safety. They could say, hey, we're going to let Cook walk. We think Downs is going to be there at 9. And then he goes 7, and you go, uh-oh, it's Jaden Hicks season. So I just think running back is a relatively easy one to break down that way for me because your money goes further in free agency, and drafting the only running back of note in this draft class, that's not entirely true, but certainly the only first round talent, and then the other only running back of note shares the backfield with Jeremiah Love. It's a weird class for a lot of reasons, but I think we're probably aligned on that. I'd be thrilled to go watch some Etienne tape and to start kind of envisioning how he fits in this offense.
No, I absolutely agree with all that. And I mean, ultimately, they need to figure out how to better weaponize an excellent interior offensive line. Too much of their run blocking scheme at times was stymied with some issues with the tight ends not blocking well enough. And Josh Simmons really came along as a run blocker. There is absolutely no reason why they shouldn't be able to formulate a very diverse and excellent run game with a solid running back behind Simmons, Suamadiya, Humphrey, and Trey Smith.
That's the vision. We'll see as we get a little more here and there across the free agency landscape, the draft. There's a lot of offseason to cover here in these next couple of months. We'll be here to do it with you. Nate's gone now, Seth, so I hope you do understand what that means. I'm sure you have a very eloquent, very well planned, very well thought out outro that I don't need to stall for because you already know what you're going to say after I say these magic words. Seth, get us out of here.
You know, we've talked about wingspan a lot here. And let me tell you a little something about a guy who could fit the whole world in his open arms. That guy?
Go ahead. Yeah, tell us about him.
Well, you know, everyone just thought the man was a carpenter. Arms were too short to ever really, truly build that bench. And yet,